Big roster updates going on over in the APAC North region, of course, as they have already finished their, regular season games. They're getting ready for regional finals and, of course, Esports World Cup as well. It's no surprise that Reject Winity is going to be going in a different direction, or I would at least say the players are probably getting a step up opportunity than what they originally were getting. However, there's also some implications that I think some people weren't expecting a roster change. Needless to say, it is happening. So let's dive in and discuss what's going on. Firstly, it came out from Crazy Raccoon that they were going to be parting ways with their roster, and more specifically, all but one, and that one was going to be Justna. So this is going to be the change. Obly is going to be coming from Reject Winity, as you can see, with SangJoon as well. So these guys are coming from Reject, going to Crazy Raccoon, along with the former Crazy Raccoon player, Justna. So this is going to create, like, two from Reject, one from Crazy Raccoon, and then the two from Crazy Raccoon are actually going over to Reject. So that's going to be Dogma and Young Hee. So very excited to see how this kind of, I guess, impacts their the mojo, I guess, because you had like this crazy clip coming from Obly, right, whenever they won split one playoffs. And obviously I think a lot of people are just shocked that you have a team that does so good in playoffs. They do so good to win in a time where I think everyone's favored North America, everyone's favored everyone but them, and finally they start to come back up. Everybody kind of looks at Fnatic, everybody looks at Reject and say, okay, who knows, they might actually win this. They do pull it off, and then he gives that that stone cold stare at the end of winning, and everybody's like, okay, finally APAC North is looking good again. You love to see it. So the surprise here, I think, for many was just the fact that they're making a roster change. Now, it's still going to be Reject Winity's spot, and then Crazy Raccoon is basically going to be signing Reject Winity's spot, if that makes sense. And so now Reject's going to be going elsewhere and going to be taking the the other spot of Crazy Raccoon. And honestly, I understand what's going on, because Crazy Raccoon had a very underwhelming Pro League performance, and it's no surprise that they were making the change. I think it's more so on the fact of Reject's side. Why not the full team? What happened to Karen P? Obviously these guys were doing so good. Now all of a sudden they drop Karen P and they bring in Justna from Crazy Raccoon. It was a little shocking, to say the least, but they're keeping their coach as well. So I'm very excited to see how this one goes. I think overall they probably weren't happy with the Pro League performance they were getting. Despite winning split one playoffs, you do have to still consider that these guys didn't have the craziest of games here. They get 8th place inside of the standings for the Pro League itself, but I still felt like that was enough, right? You're tied with 7th. You're only 1 off from 6th. I mean, it's not that bad. It's not. I mean, maybe they're just holding themselves up to the Fnatic standard of just dominating with 126, but there's still regional finals, right? So you still had time to do it. Just not 100% understanding of why all of this took place and why it was the way it was, but it is what it is. I guess at the end of the day, you have to accept it. But that is the roster change going on in the APAC North region. Now, don't forget, this doesn't just have implications going into ALGS. Of course, Esports World Cup has finally begun. It just started, and these are basically like the early days of it. I think Apex is going to be coming at the end of July, and of course I think COD's going to be in there as well. Many games, League of Legends, Dota, so many games going to be involved here. It's going to be a huge event, millions and millions of dollars. But July 3rd obviously was the day that it all began, so very excited to see how all of this stuff unfolds over the coming weeks and months. Also, going into some of the Battlefied transactions, right, already said, Karen P obviously removed from Reject. This is the new Crazy Raccoon roster, but you also had some implications coming from Guild. Now, Emtee has officially joined. Of course, he came out with a tweet the other day, and we've already made mention that he says he's mentally okay. He's ready to come back. He wants to compete, and he wasn't sure what he was going to do after Moist, but basically, hey, at the end of the day, I'm ready to move on. I'm feeling good, and he has actually been added to the Guild Battlefied roster. And so now, as you could see, it's Yugi, it's Jesk, and it's Legacy, and Emtee all on the same roster here. So very interested to see how this one falls into place, but I think Emtee's going to be a huge asset, obviously having so much North American experience. Going back to any other region, no offense, but in my opinion, I think it should be a breeze. And on top of that, he's already played in the APAC South region, so it's not like he's going to have to really get used to much, I guess. He was at the top of APAC South for a very long time here with Moist Esports back when they were still in that region. So he knows all the players, he knows the play styles, and obviously he's been playing in North America. So I think Emtee's going to fare very well in anything that he decides to do, right? Whether it be, coaching, whether it be playing. Now, at the time of making this video, he still has not updated anyone on Twitter. His bio still says, it's unknown who he's going to be playing for. But of course, we saw this just recently on the transactions part of the Battlefy website. They're just leaking everything at this point. And honestly, I like the feature, but I do think some people and players might be getting aggravated that they are not allowed to make their, public announcement at the time that they want to make it and have the traction on the post that they want to make it with. Now it just kind of all comes from leaks, and the leaks are not happening from sources. It's really just happening from Battlefy at this point. But nonetheless, still wanted to make mention that Guild is going to have Emtee on their roster, and very interested to see how that one goes. Also, some further roster clarifications, I guess, here on the transactions page, just in case you're snooping and you're curious as to what's going on. Of course, a couple of days ago, we made mention of Q leaving Flat and, kind of giving credit to Nano for helping to become a better player and such. And we saw him go into Disguise, or at least practicing with them for a while. Of course, it's now been made official. He has been added to that team. Hardeki, of course, we made mention of him parting ways with Aurora and basically dropped from the team. And it's unfortunate to not see them commit to each other, but that change has been official and it's now been made as well. Then you've also got Dan from SSG, their coach. We've talked about him yesterday being removed from the team, and that's been replaced here by Frost as well. Or that spot on the roster has been replaced for their fourth now. Also, Rambro has been added to the Stallions in replacement of Jalone. Now, of course, Rambro is very well known in the CC scene. So if you guys are Challenger Circuit players, of course, you know this name. You've seen this guy compete for a while. And I think that's kind of where the Stallions are going. They're really kind of taking like a tech type position where they're kind of just recruiting a lot of CC players that are up and coming and giving them a shot. So interested to see how all that stuff falls into place. But just some more roster updates, kind of on top of what we've already made mention with Karen P here and the whole reject Winity and the Emtee situation with Guild as well. Also wanted to make mention of some of the North American Scrim results and where we're currently standing. Of course, Vanity has been a team up and down. They've kind of had a really good sense of success about, maybe a month ago. They lost that traction. Now they're back. Vanity in first place with this one. Native in second place. Not really expected that one either. Not Moist in third. Kind of always expect this. Moist, if Moist is not in the top 3 of Scrim, something's wrong. The tell is, will they do this in Pro League coming up next week? Also, you've got CC in 4th, TSM in 5th, Furia in 6th, Fluffy in 7th, Flat, Liquid, Bleed in the top 10, Team Falcons in 11th, NGNL in 12th, Pioneers, Temper, Oblivion, Disguised, Complexity, Cloud9, Oxygen, and Elevate. So interested to see how all of this stuff plays out in the next couple of weeks. Of course, Pro League is going to be a big one for North America and EMEA. And don't forget, APAC South and North are already complete with their regular season. They're getting ready for the regional finals. Let me know what you think of this roster change for Crazy Raccoon and the acquiring of the 2 players from Reject, Winity, Obly, and SangJoon. I think they're going to be a very successful roster, for obvious reasons, right? But I do think it's weird. Like, why get rid of Karen P? Why make these decisions? Why is this, it's not like they were doing horrible inside of Pro League, but I guess their standard is so high at this point. Interested to see what your thoughts are down below. Like and subscribe if you want to stay up to date with all things going on in the scene. And until the next time, we'll see you all later, Gators.